Hey guys, what's going on? Sherman here. The knife we're going to be taking a look at today is a knife that was sent to me by my buddy Jeff. You guys remember watching one of my last videos. This knife is on loan from him. I know I said in one of my videos I was probably going to keep this. I'm actually going to return it back to him so that he can sell it. But yeah, I wanted to do this review and give you guys kind of my not first impressions, because these aren't my first impressions. I've had it and I've been playing with it for about a week now, or close to a week. And just kind of give you guys an overview, not really a full in-depth review because I haven't been able to really carry it and test it because it is on loan. But I'm just going to give you guys the basic specs and overviews and my thoughts on this knife. And so I'm not going to be calling it a review per se. It's going to be kind of an overview of my opinion on this knife. And I'll be doing that with the next 3 knives that he's sent me as well. But anyway, this is the Protech Rockeye, and this is a collaboration between Protech and custom knife maker Les George. And this is their version of his Rockeye Custom, which it reminded me, I didn't know about the Rockeye Custom until just a little bit ago, but it was reminiscent of the mid-tech knife that he did, the VECP, which has been a highly coveted knife of mine. I've been wanting to try to find one for years now. Awesome knife. Love the design. That's what made me fall in love with the Rockeye so much, is because it's the same design. And Protech just did an awesome job at replicating that design and still keeping the quality at an exceptional level. This is my first experience with Protech. I've always heard about their excellent quality control and just their craftsmanship, and this is definitely no exception. It's definitely set a good example in my opinion. But anyway, I'm going to give you guys the specs. The knife is overall a little over 8.5 inches. It is a big knife, perfect for a tactical knife, and it's an automatic, so it definitely plays into that role. The blade length is 3.5 inches. Or a little bit over. It's one of those funky. It's one of those funky ones. It's not exactly, but it's around 3.5 inches, and the overall knife weighs 4.64 ounces. So for such a big knife, it is very lightweight, very reasonable to me anyway. I know a lot of guys are, pretty picky about weight. I'm not one of those guys, but I think even a pretty picky person would say that that's fairly light for a little over 8.5 inch knife to be under 5 ounces. That's because an auto design can afford to not cut corners, but they can afford to make the knife lighter, just because of the construction of it. But anyway, the frame of the knife is made of 6061 T6 aluminum, which is aircraft grade. That's a good look at that powder coating, that anodization they did to it. Beautiful, beautiful tan anodizing on that aluminum. The blade steel on this knife is CPM 154, which I believe for the first year they made this, or at least the first few runs of this knife, they were making them in CPM D2. I'm not a huge fan of D2 steel, so I really like this, in my opinion, upgrade of steel, or it's just a steel that I prefer. It's really hard to say what's really an upgrade, but it is CPM 154. Got that nice DLC coated blade. And something that I mentioned in my unboxing, not really unboxing, but my first video showing this knife, is that I love how everything is a consistent texture. And what I mean is the coating on the handle, that chalky, kind of powdery finish that they did to it, kind of carries over to the chalky feel of the DLC, and they have a oxide finish on all the hardware. It's that black oxide they put on the hardware. There's it on the firing button, the pocket clip screws, the frame screws, everything. So it's a really nice, consistent design. I really like that. Of course, this knife comes in a ton of different versions. This is just the black and tan version, but of course they make satin finish, black handles. They make some different, it's like gun texture, that kind of cross-hatched finish. And this is just the plain smooth finish, which I actually prefer. But beautiful, beautiful knife in my opinion. There's the George Cross. That's it's his logo engraved in the blade. The side Protech, made in the USA, of course. Beautiful edge that came on this knife, extremely sharp. It even had a, caution sharp edge sticker on the packaging this came with. Extremely, extremely sharp edge on this right out of the box. Love the blade shape. It is an extremely simple drop point blade. Ton of belly. Has a nice unsharpened swedge up top, terminating to a very needle-like tip. Very strong, but still very sharp. But just a very good-looking, simple blade design. That's what I love, and I would consider this a good EDC knife. But another thing I like is that everything is flush. All the hardware, the pivot is all flush. And the firing button is recessed into the handle very well. It's not even flush with the handle though, it's even recessed past the handle. So there's no chance of you accidentally tapping that and firing the blade off. I guess having a negligent discharge of the blade. That's what a lot of people worry about with carrying autos, is is it going to go off in my pocket? That's a very, very real fear. I can definitely understand that, but I don't think there's any chance of this happening. Plus, with the pocket clip only being oriented for right-hand tip-up carry, you're carrying this, and that blade, the spine of the blade, is going to be pressed up against the seam of your pocket. So even if you do accidentally press that button, the blade's not going to go very far. It's not even going to be in a place where you put your hand. You really only have to worry about that if you're carrying a knife that is tip-down carry, and it opens like that inside your pocket. You got to reach your hand down, pull it back up, and you just cut your hand wide open. You're not going to have to worry about that with this. But yes, it is a tip-up right-hand carry only. So I know that stinks for lefties. Great for me in terms of the tip, because I definitely prefer tip-up carry. But just wanted to just show you guys that everything's flush. Very, very simple design. I love how clean it looks. You have no hardware on this side except for the firing button and the pivot. That's the only two pieces necessary. Backside, you just have the 3 frame screws, pocket clip, and that's it. Very, very clean. Backside's a closed construction, so you're going to have to blow this out either manually or with compressed air. Just clean all your pocket lint out. There's your stop pin. Huge, beefy stop pin, which is good for an auto that fires this hard. And a generous lanyard hole, which is nice to see. Not as big as like a paramilitary, but it's close. So it's definitely an adequate lanyard hole if you choose to carry it with a lanyard. So a good pocket clip. It is very reminiscent to Benchmade's just standard clip. I like it. Here again, it's just very simple. It's not really difficult, but it is a little bit more difficult than some knives to put on and take out of your pocket, just because it's that rough, chalky finish resting on that rough, chalky finish. So it's just kind of a little bit of resistance, but nothing major. Alright, so I'm going to fire the blade off for you. It kicks pretty hard. And I don't have a whole lot of experience with autos to be able to tell if this is really normal or not, or if this is something that a lot of autos have, but it is a very, very smooth button depression. And also the thing that I noticed about this is it's, I guess almost like the equivalent of a gun with a very light trigger pull. It doesn't take much to fire this thing off. It is just a very, very light button press. You don't even really know it's coming. It's just you start to push that button down and you really don't feel the button go down. You don't feel yourself pressing it down. It's just you start to press it and it's out. You don't feel that travel, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You don't have any kind of travel time with that. So that could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. Depends on how you look at it. I love the thumb ramp. It has a very, very gradual radius, or ramp I should say. But the jimping is outstanding. Very wide cut, but it is sharp enough that it really, really bites in. Not to the point of being aggressive and painful, like some knife jimpings, it's just good enough. So your thumb's not slipping forward, and it's not going to get abraded even if it does. It is the perfect amount of jimping, in my opinion. So that DLC finish, I think, really helps with that. It kind of gives that traction. So I love the handle design also for its simplicity and the large, very large finger choil. So that's obviously going to protect your hand from coming forward in a thrusting motion, because this knife is definitely intended for combat use. This is definitely a tactical knife with tactical purposes in mind. The edges of the handle, I also wanted to mention, you guys can definitely tell, are very nicely chamfered, nicely smoothed and rounded. Excellent fit and finish. Very comfortable in the hand. No hot spots whatsoever. It's very warm feeling, very natural. Like I said, it is a big knife. It is a bigger handle than blade ratio, so there's a lot of extra handle sticking out. You can use it as a non-lethal impact device. Kind of comes to a little point, so that's pretty cool. But it is just aluminum. Like I said, it is pure aluminum down there. I don't know if I mentioned that actually. I don't have a light down there to show you, but it is just 2 thick aluminum slabs, no steel liners. So you do have to worry about that. Aluminum's is not too strong. Let me show you guys with the blade and the handle. You can see the difference is about that much more handle than blade. The centering, though, is some of the best I've ever seen. It is just pretty much perfect. Which is just a nice touch. Not necessary, but it is nice. Fire it off again. I guess what everybody likes seeing. But yeah, lockup is good, side to side good, up and down good. Everything you could expect. So it does feel secure. So that's always good. But just an outstanding knife. I'm really digging this knife. I'm gonna miss it, but I want to help my friend out in his business. This knife is for sale. This very one is for sale. You can see there's no marks. And I've actually handled this. If that means anything to anybody, it may mean they want less for the knife actually. But this very knife is for sale. If you're interested in buying this or another model just like it, or even a little bit different, if you just really want a Rockeye or any knife, contact my buddy Jeff. I'll put his contact information down below in the description, and email him for any kind of questions, or if you're interested in this particular knife. Yeah, I really like this knife. It's really sweet. It's definitely turned me on to wanting some more autos. This is definitely, like I said, it is a really sweet knife. Definitely combat oriented, but I would everyday carry this, no problem. Also, something I wanted to mention, like I said, I'm not that familiar with autos, so I'm kind of everywhere in this overview. I keep going back to these subjects. But when you're putting the knife back, of course, you're unlocking. It has that plunge lock. You're pushing that button in, which is unlocking the knife. You can see that big cutout for the blade stop. It just encapsulates, which is nice. But anyway, it is a very light feeling spring in there. It is very, very, very little resistance when putting this back in. You can actually do it one-handed very easily, which is something you can't do with a lot of autos. Well, from the few that I've actually held and used. And when you're putting it back into the handle, when you're closing the knife, there's not a real click. You really can't tell when the lock is locking the blade closed. It just kind of stops. And I know it may have looked like it sucked it in, like it almost had a detent, but you don't feel it. It's just the blade closes and then just stops, and then it's locked closed. It even rebounds if you kind of limp wrist it. That's how hard it fires. That's surprising that it fires so hard, but has such a light spring when you're closing it. Like I said, we'll go over that real quick though. If you guys aren't familiar with how automatic knives work, is I believe you have a couple of different systems. You have your spring, your coil spring, and then you have a couple of different spring types. I'm not going to claim to be the expert on that. Somebody else could definitely explain it much better than I can. But how the lock works, it's a plunge lock. which you'll see in a lot of knives, like the Hogue knives, like the EX01, EX02s and 3s. I think all of those feature a plunge style lock. You won't really be able to see it that well, especially without a flashlight. But what's going on is you have just a normal lock face. Can you see it? No, you can't. Well, yeah, you can. Well, it's not really a normal lock face. You have a cutout. So you have that circular cutout. And you actually have two. One is holding the knife closed. That's what's keeping it in the closed position. You know, that plunge lock is being pushed into the blade, into that cutout, keeping it closed. So by pushing it in, you're pushing a dead space that's in that button. There's a dead space, or like a free space basically. So that allows the blade to come out. All that spring tension is released because the lock is being pushed away from that cutout. And then when it opens, it locks in that second cutout. So I hope that I explained that well. Probably just sounded like a babbling idiot. But like I said, automatic knives are not my specialty yet. I definitely want some more to be able to get more familiar with them. So yeah, this is a really, really sweet knife. I really enjoyed playing with it. Highly recommend it. Like I said, I would carry this every day. You know, if you guys are in the market for an out the side opening automatic knife, you're legal to carry one in your state, or maybe you just want to own one just to play with. Definitely check out the Protech Rockeye. This thing is awesome. So like I said, if you're interested, contact my buddy Jeff, email him, or message him here on YouTube. But anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this little overview. Definitely more to come in the future. If you have any questions about this knife, just drop them in the comments box, guys. Alright, hope you have a great rest of your night. Stay safe, stay sharp, and God bless. Sherman614. Peace. Just put a cut in my reviewing paper.